Hey guys, what's going on? Rich here, bringing you through the next couple weeks of my training, which was coming out of HYROX Orlando and now in preparation for HYROX Chicago, which is the US Championship. So getting some feedback from the previous race, I'm going to be able to work into what will be considered a competition phase of training, where a lot of the workouts are going to be very specific toward the event itself, where previously leading into what will be a pre-competition phase, the volume was higher and kind of building a lot of pieces and maybe putting in some a little bit of taste of simulations here or there to kind of get a good feel of it. But now that I have one HYROX under my belt, I have a good idea of what those simulations should feel like and what they should kind of look like. So right now, in these next couple weeks, is going to be about the best way to kind of put that into practice while balancing the strength and the running in general. So before we get started, hit us with a like, hit us with a subscribe so you can get all the newest training videos and athlete interviews directly into your feed. Okay, cool, let's do it. So the first thing we want to look at here is the training peaks. So training peaks is basically just where all of the workouts are going to live, and then it's going to be pushed into Train Heroic for the strength specific stuff. So this is nice because I can kind of see my total duration of what that looks like. And so for this was last week. Last week was kind of a plan around 11 hours, which was right on where I wanted to be. I had some travel, so I had to miss a little bit and bring the volume down here or there for the weekend, but was still able to get in some good training. So 11 hours of training is pretty solid. My peak was about 13. So bringing that down into this competition phase where I'm focused more on the intensity is right on par. That's right where I would like for it to be. So some of the things that I did want to focus on was going to be the running part of like more of the compromised running, where leading into it, I was just working on a lot of the running skill, and I was actually not able to run a ton of quality because I had a little bit of a hip issue. But now I want to make sure that I'm able to run fast and doing it under fatigue. The hip feels great, so I'm ready to do it. So the first workout I did after HYROX was a bit of a compromised workout where I was just doing burpees and then running for 5 minutes at what would be considered about sub race pace or around threshold pace. So this is 50 burpees and then 5 minutes of a tempo. So the tempo was anywhere from 5:23 and the last one was about 5:10. This was on a treadmill. I just found that a little bit easier to play around with. So I just kept the treadmill running while I was doing these burpees, and it did take about 3 minutes for the burpees. And during the race itself, the burpees were definitely a grind, and I found myself to be pretty fatigued here. So being able to do a bunch of burpees before and then working into tempo was the idea behind this, and it went pretty well in terms of the running. So this will be a little bit of a progression that I'll be working toward this next week as well. And then doing one big HYROX workout on Thursday, which I'll take you through. So just in general, it's going to be 2 quality workouts per week for the next, from last week, this week, and the following week will be a taper week. So that's what that looks like. So we're doing one on Wednesday and then doing another compromise on Saturday, which are going to be the last pieces of the training puzzle. And before we go into a bit of a taper here to lead into Chicago, which is the 26th. So everything else is going to be a mixture of cross training, running, and strength. So Mondays and so 2 real strength workouts per week, which would be Monday and Saturday. And then same this week would be Monday and then also on Friday. So giving some good pieces between there. So, and then the running and cross training volume is going to be split however I feel fit. It's going to be anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes of running, most likely, because things are feeling pretty good. And then finishing up with extra volume on the bike or the rower or the skier or whatever I have available to me at that time, and just however I'm feeling. But it's going to be anywhere from 90 minutes to an hour and 45 of just volume work in between the quality sessions and the strength stuff. So it's looking like 2 to 3 volume workouts per week, 2 strength workouts with some extra volume, and then 2 quality workouts. That's really how the structure of things are going to kind of look into it. So let's dive into the weeks themselves. So we did kind of go through and show you what Tuesday was looking like. And then moving forward, there was a HYROX workout on Thursday. And then the strength workouts were Monday and Saturday. So let's kind of look at what those were and how those all kind of look together. So for the strength workouts themselves, I was working in a phase where it was a lot of squats and deadlifts. So I wanted to kind of move out of that to reduce the amount of intensity I was taking on in terms of like the eccentric loading. So I was kind of doing more of like a strongman phase. And what that looks like was yoke carries, and then doing some supplemental work on my triceps with skull crushers, doing push press, and then doing heavy farmer's walks with the farmer's handles. The farmer's walk went really poor at the HYROX in Orlando. I don't necessarily, it was a little bit of grip strength for sure, but it was also just kind of like a gear issue and just a sweat management issue. But I do want to work on those things, and loading up the yoke, which is that big thing that kind of goes onto your back where the weights are loaded lower, just loading that up as heavy as possible and just walking with the thing, with the idea of being able to load my entire skeletal system and being able to move through it, and breathing while being loaded really heavily is important, especially for those heavy sled pushes. So this yoke walk is a great way to substitute out squats or deadlifts and still work on more of the specifics of what it needs to be for the actual race itself. So that's going to be pretty similar. My Monday and my strength workouts are going to follow a pretty similar cadence depending on where I am and what I got. And so that's what that looks like. And loading up the farmer's walks is going pretty heavy on those. I was able to get 300 plus these past 2 weeks. Which is a pretty big deadlift for me, and then being able to walk with it in my hands, I'm pretty happy with. So that's kind of what these are going to look like, and then adding some supplemental work with like bent rows, toes bar, and some sandbag over the shoulders. So the strength workouts are going to look pretty similar on both days without a ton of eccentric loading, just to keep that intensity down a little bit while the strength component is still taken care of. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of the actual workouts themselves, that are going to be more HYROX specific. So the idea behind these HYROX workouts is that like you just need to generate as much fatigue as possible and learn how to run through it. So that is really the whole idea behind what we are doing for these workouts. So last week, we started with, so these are all pretty big workouts because it takes a long time to generate that much fatigue. And where really I needed to improve was the back half of this workout. So the front half like went fine in terms of like the strength and endurance available to me, but the back half is really where I need to work. So we're starting off with some ski erg. So doing 2 rounds of 3 by 500 ski erg at what would be considered like threshold pace, which is right around race pace, being honest. And then 30 seconds in between the 3 reps, and then after the 3rd rep, that's 1 set. So it's 1,500 meters of skiing and then a recovery. And my recovery was just an 800 meter jog, coming back and doing that twice. And then I got into more of these circuits. So I did 2 by 50 meters sled push at a little bit heavier than the competition weight, and then 800 meter run hard. So this is really something I needed to work on, is getting off of the push and running as hard as I can to hold the pace. And the pace was holding up right around 540s, 540 low, which I'm pretty happy with, and that's kind of where I need to be. And then just as recovery, I was doing light ski erg for about 500 meters, which would be around 2 minutes, 2:15, just pulling pretty light. And then went into 2 by 50 meters of sled pull, same exact thing, pulling as hard as I can. And then going into an 800 meter run, running at about race pace, coming back and finishing with some farmer's walk as recovery, which was actually ski erg for recovery there, nice and easy. So already I've built up a bunch of volumes. This already has taken about 40 or 50 minutes. And then I'm kind of finishing with more of a race sim on the back half of this, and really focusing on the run portion and with a big tempo piece in the middle. So 400 meters faster than race pace. So this was down around 5-minute pace. And then to 80 meter burpee broad jump, which is the competition standard. And then I did 2 miles of tempo work, again, right around 550, which is what would be more or less race pace. And then coming right back in. And this actually, I went to a 1,000 meter row, and I did 100 meters carries. Then I did 30 wall balls, or 3 minutes of wall balls with a 30-pound ball. And the wall balls are really hard at the end of a HYROX, I found. And I thought they were going to not be a problem because 20 pounds is pretty easy. So the 30-pound ball makes it feel a lot more like the actual competition. Like it's hard. It's hard to keep going. It's hard to pick it back up when you drop it. It's really hard to control on the way down. And the fatigue it generates is really high. So that's really important, I would say, for the wall balls themselves, is to use a heavier weight, because that's going to simulate what it feels like a little bit more. So this all went well. I was really happy with generally how it felt. It didn't quite get to as hard as what I would think it would be, but I was still really happy with the sled push, really happy with the sled pull. I was really happy with my running because the running was really a hard part of this workout. So let's look at this week's workout, which I have not done yet, but I have written out, which is going to be pretty much a simulation. And as we're in this pre-competition phase, we really want to focus on the specifics of the workouts themselves to make sure they mirror the efforts of the race. So for this sim in particular, what I'm going to do pretty much 2 sims back to back, but just playing with the volume with each of them, just so it's not 2 hours of consistent work, which would knock me out probably until the race, which I don't necessarily want to do. So we're going to reduce the volume on the first sim for the actual movements themselves and for the running just a little bit. So it's going to be 500 meter ski, 800 meter run, but I'm keeping the push and pull the same because it's just such a important piece when it comes to generating fatigue that I want to keep the push and pull the same for the requirements. But 800 meters in between as opposed to 1,000, so just cutting 200 meters, which after all 8 stations, it's about a mile of work that we're bringing down. And 50 burpee broad jumps, and then 500 meter row. These are all 800 meter runs in between. So even though if it's not written that way, it's all going to be 800 meter runs and a little bit less volume in between the actual movements. So when I'm doing this, what the idea is to focus on the running portion of it with the everything else being less. So I'm back into the run quicker so that the fatigue on the run will be a little bit higher than what it would be if it was a little bit longer pieces of like the ski or the row. They don't necessarily make me more tired doing longer pieces of those workouts, but so this is really going to be more run focused on this and making sure all these 800s are hit at race pace. So that's really what that's going to look like. Finishing up again 50 wall balls with a 30-pound ball, which will be tough. So I'm going to rest 3 minutes after that and then run into another mini sim, which this one is going to be the actual competition duration of the stations and much shorter of the run. So this part is going to focus more on the stations because even though the runs didn't go that well in my previous HYROX, the stations at the end are really what killed me. Resting too much in between the stations and not being able to move into the run quick enough. So this is where I want to really focus on as much fatigue that I can generate through the stations as possible, and then getting back to the run. So shortening the run is going to put a focus on the stations, and it's also going to make sure that I need to get to that running pace as quickly as possible because I don't have another 600 meters to kind of ease into it. So I need to get out the door as quickly as possible for these 400 meters. So everything else remains the same. We're keeping the burpee broad jumps at about 50 so that we can amass a little bit more volume than what it would be. Or the row and the ski are going to 1,000. We're going to do a further farmer's walk for 200 meters. Going to do the full 100 meter walking lunge. And we're going to go to 100 wall balls with a 20-pound ball. So dropping so this is really going to be the very end is going to be the very end pieces of the workout itself, of the event itself, and this is really going to be the biggest focus point. So needing to do more volume for this seems absurd, but needing to do it so that I can match the fatigue levels. In the race itself, the effort, the intensity will be much higher, which is going to be hard to simulate in practice. So just doing more and then focusing on these last 3 to 4 stations and really being able to kind of push through. So that's going to be the crux of these next couple of weeks, is making sure that we are getting these big workouts in that are going to kind of simulate the fatigue. And just finishing up on Tuesday, which is just going to be a bit of just a real easy workout. Some ski sprints. This is supposed to be 100 meters, and then 2x, and then just doing a run at tempo pace, and then 20-minute AMRAP off some sled push and some run and stuff like that. So just making sure we're staying sharp. But this workout doesn't have as much weight as the 2 workouts coming up. So that's really what these next couple of weeks are looking like in terms of the quality itself. And then on the running side, the only other thing we're going to be doing on Saturday is going to be pretty similar to what we did the previous Tuesday, where it's going to be 50 burpees and then 4 minutes of tempo. So we're shortening that, and we're going to crank up the speed a little bit, and then we're going to alternate between burpees and lunges for the part that is going to be compromised. So working on those 2 things, as the lunges really beat me up and the burpees also beat me up. So just focusing on getting through those and running quickly, and then giving a little bit of rest. So it'll be about 7-minute intervals that will be, and it'll be 5 by 7 minute intervals of compromised running. So again, that's where I'm going to get a lot of my running and fitness volume is here. And then all the HYROX workouts will be what the HYROX fitness will be what we noted in Train Heroic. So, and then bringing it into an easy taper, just doing similar, one strength workout Monday, HYROX prep Tuesday, and then just gonna be easy peasy up until the race itself. And then we're going to take off. So I think this will be a good way to explore the best ways to improve my fitness for a HYROX event. So we'll see how it goes. So if you like this video, hit us with a like, hit us with a subscribe to get all the latest as we continue to push forward with the training and what that's going to look like going forward. So I appreciate you taking the time, and I hope this helps.